Okay, hello everybody and welcome to the next video in my Who Is series. And as always, you're joining me today to learn more about the theme behind the Spirit of the Day. And in so doing, learn more about each spirit, improve our playstyles and enjoyment of the game, and ultimately help us become better spirits. I hope you've all been really well these last few weeks, and my apologies that I haven't been able to post as on time as I would have liked in the last few weeks. Unfortunately, as much as it's important to me to save this island, and the Dahan, of course, life sometimes gets in the way, and it's just been a little bit busy for me recently, and it's still going to be a little bit busy going forward in the next few months. What I'm going to try to do is pre-prepare a number of videos, so there'll be no sort of clues left, not necessarily anyway, unless I have specific things in mind for the next spirits. But hopefully I will be able to produce the spirits on time. And today we are going to be talking about one of my favorite spirits, and I know I say that a lot, but this really is one of them that from the very beginning kind of took my heart, and in many ways still really love him. This is, of course, Serpent Slumbering beneath the island. Now, two caveats. Number one, there is a lot to talk about with Serpent Slumbering beneath the island, but I really do not want to make this video extensively long. Unfortunately, every trial run at making a video has gone on longer. So one caveat will be, if it has to be longer, I am apologetic about that, but there we go. But the second thing is, and more pertinently, information will be flying fast and hard in this video. I'll try to keep it as concise as I can, but always you can pause, replay the video and so on to get those concepts, but I'll probably be moving from one to another relatively quickly. Of course, still always focusing on the theme behind each spirit, okay? So, the clues that we left last week were basically to give you an idea that we are talking about this spirit. Tired because he sleeps a lot, Serpent Slumbering. Slow because he's slumbering and he plays a slow game. Utility we'll get onto, and the powerhouse nature of him is where we'll start. So who is Serpent Slumbering beneath the island? Summary of him would be absolute late game powerhouse. And I mean, you know, if you are looking for the spirit that is the best spirit, let's say, like, which is the strongest spirit? Which is the most powerful spirit? If you ask that question ever, I think many people who play this game will agree, and a lot of the spirits within this game will most likely agree, Serpent Slumbering beneath the island is number one. So if you want the powerhouse spirit, this is the one for you. He does, however, because he's so powerful, need to be tempered slightly, and so he plays slowly, which means he builds slowly, he grows slowly, and he doesn't have the power that he eventually has early on the game. Now, there's a slight little caveat here. We will be specifically focusing today on the solo single-handed spirit approach, like we always do. One spirit, one board. When you play multiplayer, this spirit is set up to play in a multiplayer arena, okay? Multiplayer spirits. When you play him solo, a lot of the cards that he has as unique cards change, and he can now utilize them himself. Normally he can't. So, bearing that in mind, his power level does rise in a single player solo spirit slightly more in the early to mid game than is sort of anticipated and meant to be built in a normal sort of multiplayer cooperative game. Okay, so at some future stage we will do a multiplayer game, whether with another person or myself running two spirits, whatever, and you'll see the difference. But just remember that his power is definitely different in a single player game and a multiplayer game, his power level in the early game. Late game, they're the same. Moving on to utility, he is one of the best spirits for utility in the game. By utility, I specifically mean the ability for a spirit to give gifts and give boons and benefits to another spirit. He is amazing at this. In fact, I'll highlight them now, 3 of his 4 unique cards he cannot use on himself. He can only use on other spirits. So this is where the caveat from before comes in. On a solo game, another targeting spirit cards can change to any and therefore can be targeted on the individual spirits themselves. But normally, 3 of his 4 cards he does not use on himself. One of his innates gives massive boons, not just to himself, but to other spirits as well. So he is a very giving spirit. He also plays a number of mini games, and by that I mean he has a lot of things going for him, but in order to activate them to their full potential, he has to be mindful of a number of different things. The amount of elements he has and he has access to, the ability, his mechanic of drawing essence, we'll talk about this, when and how to do this, where and how to position on the board, and the activation of his innate powers at the appropriate time. This is all in addition to his presence track, which is basically him in the sleeping phase and then eventually when he wakes up. So there's a lot of little mini games that he plays and he needs to keep track of lots of different things. If you like that, you'll love this guy. And we touched on it just there. He is incredibly element heavy. Okay, so if you like a spirit with lots of different elements, but you need to count each individual one, know how many you have of each, this is the guy for you. If you don't like that idea and you want to be a bit more pure with like 1 or 2 elements or maybe not even activating your innate power too much at all, probably steer clear of this guy. Okay? So let's go to his spirit panel, and as always we talk about the sound effect. Imagine an energy wave just whoosh going through you and through the island. You hear that? This is what I hear when I think of him. Because of his power nature to him, that's exactly what I feel is in this sound effect. And I think they've nailed it perfectly. Okay, so the lore. Long ago, in an earlier age, there was only water where islands now lie. One day, for there were day and night by then, though humans did not yet exist, a great serpent grew tired of swimming and decided to rest. It drew the earth up around itself, and so the island was born. Other stories say different things. In particular, Volcano Looming High, I like that little callback there, has its own account, but stories do not need to agree for them to be true. Reasonable, interesting. Regardless, many spirits can sense the immense serpent deep below. It is mostly asleep, and its influence in the land above is limited, but the invader's blight already begins to sting it towards greater wakefulness. So basically, what do we learn here? Lovely lore, but from the theme aspect, I think basically sleeping, slumbering, absolute giant behemoth, magnificent powerhouse of a spirit that is mostly asleep but is starting to wake up because of the incursion of the invaders, and eventually when he does wake up, there's this promise of immense power. Okay. Now, interesting, he starts on land 5. Most of the time, land 5 is a centralized land with lots of other lands that it is attached and adjacent to. This is very important for him. Moving on to complexity, I think high is very reasonable. There is scope to argue very high, simply because he plays quite traditionally in many ways. Traditional defense, traditional offense, but he's limited with his card plays. He has an amazing defensive card, but needs to be able to almost reclaim it multiple times, but you also want to grow. He can only grow in one way from his growth track, and although there is a limit, it's predominantly quite a strong growth option. But he has so many little things he has to keep track of, and in order for him to stay in the game and viable, he needs to be able to make use of his innate powers throughout the game and the correct choice of card play, such that eventually, yes, he becomes a massive powerhouse, but it's getting him there. So his win condition, which I don't often specify, and I need to put that more into my videos, but this is a good time to put it in, I think. His win condition, I think, is terror level 3 or an immediate victory at terror level 4, right? That immediate win condition. That's where you're aiming towards on the whole. Can you win earlier? Absolutely. But you know, a lot of the time I tend to win later. And it's actually quite satisfying when you do that. Summary of powers. Absolutely, I think this is very accurate, particularly in the beginning part of the game. But as he gets and breaks into the wakeful part of the game, basically later on, imagine every single one of these bars, probably except the control, just peaking, going massively high. Okay, defense, fear, offense, all go really high. Utility is always high. Okay, let's spin this around and let's talk about his growth options. So I think the theme behind the growth options, the way I see it, is twofold, in the sleeping phase and the waking phase. So his presence edition, basically in both, because he is of the land, he potentially is the island himself, he can pretty much go anywhere he wants. His presence can be felt up on the island itself, in the actual lands themselves of the island, not just deep down in the actual makeup of it, in multiple different areas, in distant areas. But one thing he really does not like and does not do well with is blight. So anywhere there is blight, he can't go into. And I think this agrees for both when he's asleep, because he can go anywhere he wants, and when he's awake. Now, when he's asleep, the way I look at this gain 4 option here is, this is his hibernation phase. So he's gathering energy, maybe for fueling himself, keeping himself hibernated, or he is maybe preparing for later when he's waking up. That's what the gain 4 is. When he's awake, he probably has enough, but in case he needs more of that energy spurt to do things, that's when he'll ask for it. He'll get it that way. I think this next growth option is very interesting in the sleeping phase. When he's sleeping, he, in my opinion, is almost like dreaming up, because he's so powerful. He's dreaming of gaining new power, of remembering his powers, let's say. And so he's gaining power cards and a little bit of energy to enable him to do what he's looking to do later when he's awake. When he's awake, the use of this option, I think, is his way of saying, okay, I'm going to gain a little bit more now to just do that little bit of extra stuff. That's, in my mind, how I see it. And finally, the final growth option here, the reclaim cards. When he's asleep, he's slumbering. So he'll kind of reclaim the cards, and it's a sort of, okay, I won't do much, I'll just hold on to my powers, right? But I might thrash out my tail by this movement of presence, or move my claw or something whilst I'm sleeping, just a little bit. When he's awake, however, the way I like to think of this power is, I have, during my sleeping phase, been accumulating energy and power cards and everything I need and putting my presence out there on the island. Now the invaders will feel my wrath. Give me all the power I require. I'm regrouping and I'm just repositioning to do everything I need. Now, his presence tracks, very interesting from a thematic point of view. The left-hand side of this middle bit here, where the earth says requires both preceding spaces, I think is his sleeping, slumbering phase. Okay? That bit, yeah? Here, upwards, is his waking phase. When he's asleep, the summary would be, he has potentially a number of elements. He is quite element heavy, remember, so he gets a fire, a moon, this is water, and any element of his choice. He gets the ability to reclaim a card, because he's sleeping, so he'll just take a few back occasionally, maybe dream them back again or whatever, right? But he can gain a maximum of 1 energy per turn from his presence track, and play just 2 cards. This is all he can do. If you include this space here, he gains an earth as well. This is all he can do in the first 7 turns of the game. If nothing else proliferates him, 7 turns. This is a lot of sleeping, okay? 1 energy and 2 card plays, that's pretty rubbish, really. When he wakes up, though, look what happens. He wakes up, and let's take the bottom track. He goes from 2 card plays to 4 and then 5 with another reclaim. When his energy requirements are necessary when he wakes up, he goes from 1 and he jumps all the way to 6 energy. Then he gains an extra any element and goes straight to 12. This is unbelievable. From 1 to 6, then an any, then 12. That's outstandingly powerful. So at the end of the day, he has got 12 energy, 5 card plays, 2 reclaims, an earth, a fire, a moon, a water element, and 2 of any element he wants. Most impressive and most powerful presence track in the game, bar none in my opinion. Now moving on to his special rule. Slumber. You start off limited to 5 presents on the island. This is very unique. Whereas most spirits can put on as many as they want, as long as they can, Serpent Slumbering beneath the island can only put 5. Now this is represented on this iconography here by the lowest number that is uncovered. Okay, so it's the lowest revealed number here. The lowest revealed number is 5. As you cover up these numbers, the next lowest revealed number becomes your limit of how much presence you can have on the island. And the way you cover up these spots is by using a unique power card called Absorb Essence, okay? And you absorb the presence of another spirit. In a solo game, it's your own presence. And you take that presence disc, which is no longer then in the game at all, cannot be replaced, you absorb it and you place them here, and you cover up the lowest revealed number. And then, as I said, the next lowest revealed number becomes your limit of how much presence you can have on the island. So the more you absorb the presence of other spirits, or in a single game, your own presence, like the snake eating its own tail, you know, the more you can actually add presence onto the island, which becomes very important in some of his innate powers and one of his cards as well. You can actually continue to place presence discs here beyond this last spot here. You can just keep placing as many as you want. That's important to know. And then finally, his innate power. Both are slow. The left one is more of a utility-based power that works just for him and for one other spirit. In a solo game, it's just for him. So the first threshold, you gain an energy, and any presence with one of their absorbed, any spirit, with one of their presence absorbed, at least gains 1 energy. So this can be multiple spirits, or, I didn't make that very clear. This innate power is not just for himself and another spirit. This is for himself and other spirits. It can be multiple, okay? The first one is any spirit that has at least 1 absorbed presence will also gain an energy. The second threshold, he can proliferate and add an extra presence disc at range of 1, adding into blighted lands because there's no other restrictions if he so chooses to. And other spirits with 2 or more absorbed presence can do the same. And the final threshold, he gains a major without forgetting, and then other spirits with 3 or more can do the same. So this is incredibly helpful to yourself and to other spirits. This is his aid innate, okay? This innate here, Serpent Rouses in Anger, it targets a land he's in, and it's his damage one, and a bit of control and fear. So for every fire and mountain set you've got, you do 1 damage to buildings, to any invader building, either town or city. For every set of 2 moons and 2 earth you have, you generate 2 fear and you can push a town from a target land you're in. And then finally, for 5 moon, 6 fire, and 6 mountain, and at the cost of 7 energy, you do damage in every single land in the game where you are either in that land or adjacent to that land for X damage, where X is the number of presence you have in or adjacent. This is humongous. This is like the nuclear device, destruction innate, okay? And it's incredibly powerful. But it takes a hell of a lot to get him there. If you think about the fact he can only play up to 5 cards, how is he going to get this 6th option here? He does have them on his element track, so you have to get the perfect cards. In a solo game, you can actually, from the cards you have, just from your uniques, you can actually end up playing 7 cards. So this is something you wouldn't be able to do in a multiplayer game, but you can still generate this threshold in the multiplayer game. You just have to have the perfect cards. And this is a lot harder to achieve in a multiplayer, in my opinion, than in a single player game. But again, in multiplayer, you can have presence, you can have spirits which give you an element or things of that nature. So there are ways to achieve this if you have specific spirits. Even if you don't, you can still achieve this in a multiplayer game. My point is just that in a solo, you have access to cards which you wouldn't have access to in a normal cooperative multiplayer game, which may make this threshold a bit easier to achieve. And finally, his cards. Let's start with this Absorb Essence power card that was mentioned in Deep Slumber. It's a 2-cost power card with fantastic artwork. There he is there, Serpent Slumbering, and he seems to be dissolving or absorbing, obviously, the essence of vital strength of the earth. That seems a bit harsh. What's going on? The elements are moon, fire, water, and mountain. You do have to target another spirit. Remember, this changes to any, and therefore includes yourself in a solo game. You gain 3 energy to begin with, but then you take that presence disc from this spirit, whichever you've chosen, you add it to your Deep Slumber. It then cannot be returned to the game. It's not destroyed, it's just absorbed, and it stays there. But that target spirit gains 1 of any element they want and an extra energy as a compensation. In solo, this basically reads gain 4 energy and 1 element, but take 1 of your presence from the game and add it here. Very powerful card. Like, this is a key card for Serpent Slumbering Beneath the Island, and the use of this card and the correct timing of this card is vital to getting this spirit correct. Elemental Aegis we'll talk about last. Gift of Flowing Power and Gift of the Primordial Deeps are his other utility cards. As it would suggest, Gift is to other spirits, okay? Again, targeting another spirit. That spirit gains 1 energy. It's a 1-cost fire and water, and that spirit can either play an extra power card by paying its cost, which is incredibly helpful, or they gain a fire and water. In a solo game, this card is basically a 0-costed card which gives you either 2 fire and 2 water, or 1 fire and water and the ability to play an extra card. Very powerful. The final one, Gift of Primordial Deeps, 1-costed moon and mountain card, again targeting another spirit. That spirit can gain a minor power and then can choose to play it straight away by paying its cost, or they gain a moon and a mountain. So in a solo game, this is a 1 energy, 2 moon, 2 mountain card, or this is a 1 energy, 1 moon, 1 mountain, sorry, it's Earth, I keep forgetting that, and gain a minor power card and play it. You always gain that minor power card, by the way. Okay, so whether you get the 1 energy, 2 moon, 2 mountain, and minor power, or 1 energy, 1 moon, and 1 mountain, minor power, and then play it. Very, 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 very powerful. Your fellow spirits will love you to be able to give these abilities to them, okay? In a solo game, they all come on you. They're all yours. They're all the utilities for you. Finally, Elemental Aegis, possibly the most powerful defensive card in the game, one that you will be often wanting to play over and over, especially in multiplayer games, and one you'll be hoping, your fellow spirits will be hoping you'll want to reclaim over and over. There he is guarding the land. This is his defense card. In the land he is in, very important, a fire, water, and mountain card of 1 energy. You defend 2 in that land and all adjacent lands. So because he starts in a centralized land with lots of lands adjacent to him, he can defend multiple lands for 2, but it doesn't stop there. For every presence disc you have on this area here of this Deep Slumber track, you add 1 to that defense number of in the target land and all adjacent lands. So if you have 3 presence here, you are defending for 5 in that target land and all adjacent lands, which is nuts. This is incredibly powerful. So as you can see, we had to go through quite a lot in quite a fast pace. There's so much to talk about, but very, very powerful spirit. Like really, really, really powerful spirit. And in a solo game, you'll see his power and how massively potent it is, because even more so because he'll be playing it on himself. And so you'll see that power come through very clearly. When you play in a multiplayer game, you can distribute that power to multiple different spirits if you so choose to. So it's a very different playstyle, but I really enjoy both the solo play game and the multiplayer game, and the challenges both bring. So okay, we're back now to actually the demo game. So let's go, let's see what we get. So we've got board E, and we are going to be Serpent Slumbering. And by the way, the music for each spirit in this digital edition game is different. So just listen out to the music for Serpent Slumbering, and I think you'll agree it's both incredibly thematically powerful, of a sort of hidden spirit, something that is promised and threatening, and then eventually as it breaks through. It's brilliant. Here we go. Okay. Right, this is going to be a fast and furious game because we could drag this out for ages. The idea this is going to be a late game. I don't want to do that. Few important points, okay? Land 5, that's where we start. It's a centralized land. We've got land 1, 2, 3, 4, and 7 all adjacent. Land 6 and 8 currently on board E are not adjacent, so we eventually want to go there. We've already got our first problem, which is this land here. There's no easy way for me to enter this land, so I have to figure out a solution to this land. Otherwise, when it builds and ravages, we will be blighting and cascading. We do not want that. However, this land I can deal with, but in order to see if I pick anything up, I'm going to gain a power card, looking for a defense. We didn't get a defense. That's not a good start. That's not a good start. Okay. Bridge to hand present. Choose a different invader. 1 damage to each of those invaders. Okay, I mean, that's not terrible, but I think this is the card I'm probably going to choose. Because it's got a lot of the elements I'm looking for. Okay? Then we're going to add our presence into this land. And we're going to play a Gift of Primordial Deeps. Now, this is a card in a multiplayer game. Yeah, it'd be absolutely fine to play this card, but you would not be able to do this next step in a multiplayer because you can't target yourself. And so I won't be able to get the boons of this card, which says target spirit may gain power, minor power. You can either then play it by paying its cost, or you gain these elements. I wouldn't be able to do the play I'm making in a multiplayer, so just bear that in mind. And that's true for a lot of these different plays I'm going to make. But in single player, the gameplay changes, which is so fun with Serpent. So we're going to finish playing. We're going to do this on ourselves. And we still didn't gain a defense. Not good. This is an excellent card because it's got fire, it's got mountain, and no moon, but it does have water. This is also excellent for gaining more minor powers. So we'll probably gain this one just to gain more minor powers. And we're going to play it. And actually, hold on. Did I just play the wrong card? If I play this one, I have to be in the land. No. That's the right one. That's the right one. Okay, here we go. Come on. Right. So we've triggered the second level of the Innate here. And we are going to do damage in this land here. Or move this town, rather, shall I say. So it doesn't pose an issue. And I'm moving it into this wet jungle here. Now we're going to gain a minor power card. Please, defense. Okay, we got a defense. Not helpful. But we're going to pick it up anyway because it's got perfect on element on its card. So we're going to take it anyway. We've got one more chance to gain something to help us with this land. Now, look how many cards we've been able to draw. We still haven't got the right one. If we get it now, well, this is one of the powers of this spirit in solo play. You can do this. Let's see. Please, please, please. Defense that I can act. Oh, man. I did actually not get a defense. That's crazy. Okay, so 4 drafts, no defense. That's a shame. But it will make the game a bit more interesting. So let's pick up Rouse the Trees of Stone. Now technically, of course, I do have a defense, which is Elemental Aegis, but I was hoping to leave that to a different time. But what I'll do is I will cast it this go, and we'll play our presence into there. We'll do stone and we'll do elemental. Okay, so we will be able to defend the land. Oh, actually, we can't do stone. We don't have a sacred science. Well, that's a problem. Well, in which case, what I'll do is I'll play Absorb Essence now. Which is a bit zany, but we're going to do it anyway. Okay? So Absorb Essence we'll cast on ourselves. We're going to draw a essence off the board. We're going to gain a element, and at the moment what I'm going to gain is probably just the plant because I want a bit more energy. Okay? Now we're going to do Elemental Aegis in this land here, and it's going to defend all the lands around for 3. This is amazing. This is perfect. I really wanted to see this card. So each spirit destroys one of their presence, so I'm very close to dying, okay? But I'm going to get an extra... what's it called? I'm going to get an extra... I'm going to discard both this card, and I'm going to discard this card. And then I'm going to gain an extra element this turn. So I'm going to destroy this here. And the extra element is going to be mountain. So now I might be able to proliferate. Let's see if that works. Okay. Gather 1 or 2 Dahan symbols. Okay, let's... Oh, can I gather into this land? So let's gather into there. And invaders. Right, so this is a weird game already. Very, very weird game. Okay, so what we're going to do now is play this on myself and gain an extra energy. And then we're going to put this into this land here and kill one of these towns off. We're also going to move one of the towns away. Okay? So we're going to move this town into here. Now we can actually... If we reclaimed our cards, we could play Elemental again and defend both of these land types, which is possibly what we're going to do. And I think that probably is important because we need to proliferate. So we're going to move this land into here, and we're going to also proliferate again, or add presence, I should say. Now we're going to go into the sands again. So we're going to go into this sand type because this one may be able to be defended with a Dahan there. Now we're going to do Elemental Aegis, and we're going to do... Should we do Absorb Essence again? That seems a bit ludicrous. What would be the right play? This one? Yeah, maybe. I don't have an activation site for this one, but if I played that, I'm actually almost triggering this power. Do I have any element yet? No, not yet. Ooh. Okay, so I'll be able to proliferate quite quickly, I think. So what I'll do is I'll play Elemental, just leave it at that. Yeah, I'll just leave it here. I'm playing Elemental in this land type, and then let's do that. Okay. Might be able to speed up. Add 1 blight to a land. Okay, and we need to pay 1 energy. Fine, so we stop that. 1 damage to each invader. Okay, cool. Cool. So nothing happened there. Each player may choose a land adjacent to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Yeah, so fine. Let's pick this land. I want it to ravage in these lands because it kills those off, and then this is defended as well. Fantastic. Okay. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. So now it's going to ravage in this land here. So what I'll do is I'll kill this off. So that's not a problem. So I just need to defend this land. I may be able to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play... well, I could just let it ravage. Because I want to proliferate now, like a madman. Like a madman, I tell you. Now, let's see. Can I need to gain the any element. And let's go into this land type. And I think what I'll play is... Shall I gain or reclaim? If I reclaim, I can defend this land for sure. But I think I can just... Yeah, I think I can just let it blight. You know what? Just let it blight. Don't care. Alright, that's a cool little card. And I can play that and remove it. Brilliant. So I'm going to play this and I'm going to play this. So I've now generated this because of my extra mountain. I've generated this to proliferate and I'm going to gain power cards. Great. Okay, I'm going to now stop this from being an issue because I'm going to remove the blight that gets added. Each beast destroys one. There's none there. Add one Dahan to a coastal. Great. Okay, so that will actually destroy everything there, hopefully. Defend one in all lands. That's actually quite helpful. Adds the blight, but okay, that's okay. I'm going to remove that blight in a moment. So we're doing great here so far. Okay, so it's explored and... Okay, yeah, we're doing really good here. So we can click an element to gain it. So I can do damage in a land type that I'm in. Which probably would be the best thing to do. So let's gain this element. And what we're going to do is we'll do Renewing Rain in this land here. So we'll remove that blight. We're going to gain ourselves another power card. And another great defensive card. Do I need it this turn? It's going Mountain here for 5 and then 3. Yeah. I actually do need it this turn. Great. So I'll pick this card here. Or I can play 2 in every land and... Let's do that one. Then we're going to do this on myself and we're going to start proliferating. So we're going to reclaim, we're going to add it to this land. And then we're going to do damage in this land. Actually, they're all one more, aren't they? So I won't actually be able to kill anything off, which is unfortunate. Whatever. Oh, but I will be able to move it. Oh, that's good. Okay. So if I move it into, let's say, this land here, that's great. Okay. So actually, all I need is elemental, and I can reclaim it. It's fantastic. Look at this. So I can reclaim elemental and defend the land. Alternatively, no, I will do that. I'll reclaim elemental, and I'll defend the land. I've got absorb essence, which I can use as well. This is going really, really well, by the way. If you haven't figured that out already. So let's gain a power card. See what I got. Fantastic. Okay, let's pick up this because it's got a lot of the elements I'm looking for. And what we're going to do is play another... Now we do want to affect this eventually, so I'll probably go into this land. I'll probably go into that land for now. Now what we're going to do is we're going to... Now how much are we defending for 3? So if we play... if we play Absorb and Elemental, we'll have enough to generate the next threshold. Yeah, this is perfect. We're just going to play this. We're going to do Absorb on ourselves. We're going to get rid of this. We're going to add this element. Then we're going to extra element, which is another plant. Now we've generated this as a proliferation. And we're defending for 4 in every land. Brilliant. What does that do? That's fine. In each land, that does 1 damage. Great. Kills that off. So I didn't need to put it there anyway. 1 fear. We're on terror level 2. Do you see how we're blitzing through this? This is the power of Serpent Slumbering. I know I'm moving a bit fast, but you know, there's not much to say except that it's kind of playing itself now. So now we're going to proliferate again. We're going to add more presence. We've been able to add more presence because I've extended my ability here to 8. We've got limited presence on the board, but that's okay. That's not a problem. We're going to add presence now on myself. Okay. We're going to add this one into here, and we can do 3 damage in a land and move something out. So we're going to be ravaging in this land, in the wetland. So because now I can add that in there because I proliferated, and it just says add it 1 distance away from where you are. Now I can do 3 damage in this land, which I normally wouldn't have been able to do. And I can move this town out. Yeah? So I can move this town out, let's say into... well, let's put it into here, right? Because it doesn't really matter where it goes, but there we go. So now I need to just deal with this, and I'll have the ability to deal with that as well. So now what I could do is I can play this card and draw something in to a land without invaders. I don't have that. So I could just defend that land if I wanted to. But, you know, I can just replay that series of plays I just did. So in this case, we're a bit further on. We can actually now play 4 cards, okay? So we can play this into here again, and we're going to reclaim a card, and we are going to move this into here, and then we're going to play... I don't think we've got quite enough to trigger this ability, but let's see if we can. So we're going to do Absorb Essence, we're going to do Gift, we're going to do Gift, and we're going to do Elemental, okay? So at the moment we've got a 5, a 4, and a 3. We may be able to trigger the ultimate ability in this turn. We may not be able to. Let's see. So we're going to finish here. We're going to do Gift of the Primordial. So we're looking for as many elements as we need. At the moment we didn't actually get the right elements. So although I'm going to pick this one here, I'm actually going to gain these 2 because it's better for me. Okay. Then we're going to do Gift of Flowing, and we're going to play a card. One that has a bit of everything, so that will be this one here, okay? So we're going to play a card, and we're going to play this one. So now we are about to activate this threshold here, okay? Now, unfortunately, I won't be able to proliferate this turn, which is a shame, because I still need to generate this 6. But because I can, it doesn't matter, we win the game, right? So... we now absorb essence. So we absorb essence from this land, let's say. No. 7 needs to be... we need to be in there because we can't actually get into this land at all. So let's absorb it from here. We're going to gain a... plant. And then we don't have anything else, unfortunately. Then we're going to... because this is ravaging here. We're going to go in this land type. Great. And I think that's pretty much it. We'll go into here and we'll do damage to each. And here we go. We're about to win the game. So this is how powerful. Invaders do not ravage in the land unless there are more invaders than the current level or terror level. So actually that wouldn't have mattered. In each land with a beast, deal 1 damage. That's already done. In each land, push 1 to harm per badlands or a disease. Growing... and sense of unease. Each player may gather 1 explorer into a land with a town city, or gather a town into a city. Okay. So you know what? I'm going to gather... these are going to build. So because this is more central and has other things touching, I'm going to gather it into here. I think that's right. Seems wrong, actually. That seems wrong. What I'm going to do is put it into here. Yeah. Click a land to gather into. This one. Fine, gather into there. Whatever. Okay. Okay. Now we're going to explore. Yeah. And then hopefully, I think it's a lot earlier than I would have expected, but I think we're going to win anyway. So now we're going to do on myself. Unfortunately, I don't proliferate anymore, which is a real shame. So I may have one less than I was expecting there. And now we're going to do damage in every land that we're in. I'm going to start here. And then let's see. Let's see if we can finish the game. So this land hasn't got anything. This land has got 2 presents next to it and in it. This land has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So everything dies here. This land you've got. Oh, we just need no cities, and I think we win. Yeah. So this everything dies. This everything dies. Here we've got 3, 4. So everything dies there. Here we have only 3, so this town and this explorer stay in this land. So 1, 2, 3. And here we have 3, and so this city will die as well. There we go. And that's the game. So you can see we actually played it a bit faster this time round than I was expecting, because I thought we'd have to get to a particular point, but because we got a particular event card, we were able to actually proliferate faster than even I was expecting, and we win the game earlier. This is the incredible power of Serpent. Now, I know there was a lot of moving parts there. There were a lot of things going on. I was breezing past some of the events. Honestly, I've played this game so many times in the preparation of this particular video, and this was the fastest that I could do it. But because you play into the late game, and so there's so many things going on, but I hope I gave the theme behind it well. This guy is burgeoning power. He is so much power, and he just is waiting to awaken. I woke earlier. My alarm clock was set a little bit earlier this time, and bring, and I woke up a bit earlier than the invaders were expecting. So, strengths and weaknesses. Okay, I guess to start with, the biggest strength is, pretty evidently, he is a late game powerhouse. In my opinion, the most powerful spirit in the game, particularly in the late game. No one else compares to him. There are close seconds, but he, I think, wins out completely. I think against higher adversary levels, he still can really win really well. But in multiple spirits, I think that's when it gets a little bit more difficult, when he dilutes himself across the island. So you stick to specific areas of larger islands with multiple boards, and he's still very potent. The next strength, I think, is actually he's slow. There are a lot of players who like to play the game at a slower pace. This guy lets you do that. You build up as you want to, and you get to the point that you're looking for when you actually then blitz the game. So it's a slower build up. He is, without doubt, one of the best utility spirits in the game. His first 3 unique cards out of 4 can only be used on other spirits in the game, okay, in a multiplayer. In a solo, all of that utility gets used on himself, but he plays very differently as a result. So he's actually really fun to play in a multiplayer and then in a solo game, because he plays differently. And then finally, he's got lots of little mini games he's got going on. He has to keep track of when he's going to be able to take the presence from the board and absorb it when he needs to, when he rather shouldn't. He needs to gain energy. When is the right time to gain energy? He needs to keep track of his elements. All of these little things, and when his innates fire off and how he's going to do it, which land he's going to go into. There's a lot of little mini games to play with him. And I think for some players that will be excellent news, because he's not simplistic that way. He's also classically offensive spirit, as you could see, and classically and traditionally defensive. None of this remove blight and be defensive in that way or any of the other ways. He is big defense, big offense, and that's great. That's nice and simple, and actually really, really good fun. Weaknesses, I suppose I'd start with he's slow again. It is a weakness. If you like a spirit that's fast out the gates and goes boom into your face, this is not the spirit for you, unfortunately. This is not the one you're going to want to pick. He is doesn't have much control in the game. So he has a very limited amount of control. Of course, you can draft into things, but limited control. He also has this element heaviness to him. He really, really counts the elements, needs to keep track of all the elements, and needs to know which elements he's generating, and etc., because he's very, very particular and needs his innates in order to function really well. And I suppose, finally, the other thing is he can be a bit repetitive. You saw me playing a few cards over and over again, and that can prove to be a little bit jarring for some players, but I actually really personally like that, and I think it's a really, really good, fun playstyle. And finally, sorry, I just thought of another one. He's quite draft dependent. Specifically in multiplayer, he's very draft dependent. You need to get the right cards, but even in solo game, you need to get the right card with the right element, at least one of them, and it'll help you and all of that sort of stuff. So those are some negatives, but I think actually they add to his flavor in some way. If nothing else, I hope I've inspired you guys to want to try this spirit and to want to play him, because honestly, trust me, he is so much fun. And when you play him in a multiplayer game, your other spirits will love you. They'll be a bit upset at first when you're eating them, but they will love you when you give them the benefits for it. But in a solo player game, you will never feel as much power as you do with this guy. Now, I'm not going to give any clues for the next spirit. I've got some ideas, but they may change depending upon what we end up doing. So I'm not going to give any clues. So all that's left for me to say is, well, keep spiriting, guys. And keep saving this island. And in the process, save the Dahan if you can. Join me for the next video. And thank you for joining me for this one. And good luck and God bless.